Yo, what's going on? I want to talk about Dishonored. I beat Dishonored uh very beginning of this year. I had a friend who was talking to me about it, and I have always loved Dishonored. It is one of my favorite games from the Xbox 360 and PS3 generations, so I've always admired it. And funnily enough, as I was talking to this friend, I started to realize I didn't really remember a lot of things, and that I actually, in fact, never reached the credits. I've played the beginning sections and sort of messed around a lot, but I've never actually sat down and played the game in one sitting to completion. So I did that. I did that very beginning of this year. I also played through Dishonored 2 and Death of the Outsider for the very first time, which I actually knew pretty much nothing about, despite loving Dishonored as a series, or so I thought, right? Because as this friend was talking to me, I sort of realized I didn't really remember even just basic things in the beginning of the game that he was talking about and referencing. So I was questioning, like, well, I've been recommending this game to people, and I have, been praising this game that I remember from being a kid, and realized I didn't really even know too much about it. So I wanted to start this year by playing it, and I did. This game is phenomenal. I struggle to think of games from that generation, a Gen 7, I believe, Xbox 360, PS3, that have aged well as this game. Now, if you go back and play it on original hardware, the performance is a little rough, and even on consoles nowadays, it is still locked to 30 FPS minus Xbox Series S and X. I played it on the Series S, or I tried it on the Series S, and the frame rate was kind of wonky. Like, it felt like it was hovering around 40 FPS. I don't know if that was just me because I had, just played the PC version, which is a smooth 144 hertz for me. So maybe I was just really sensitive to it, and it was 60 FPS, but it felt a little all over the place. I know it was not stable, but on PS4, PS5, and Xbox One, the definitive edition, so this is a re-release, it is still locked to 30 FPS. And if you play it on original hardware like PS3 and 360, it is also I tried this. I just loaded up whatever save I had, which was probably like a decade old, and I was in the sewers, which is a small confined area, and it was definitely 30 FPS, maybe even in the 20s. So it's a little weird. I would definitely recommend playing this game on PC. This game feels like it was, despite being right. I believe, I don't know if the PC game came out or the PC version came out at the same time, but this is a game that was definitely made uh, as an immersive sim for the mainstream audience on Xbox and PS3. And but despite that, I think the best way to play it is on mouse and keyboard, and I think the community would agree with that too. I think the console version is not having an FOV slider and having sort of wonky frame rates, in a way, limit your freedom, or at least that's what I felt. I didn't feel like I could experiment as much. I didn't feel as fluid and as um, fast paced. Like I felt sluggish and slowed down because of those two things. So I'm definitely playing on PC. But getting into like the actual game itself, I any complaint I have would be nitpicking, or because I'm reviewing this as someone, not review. I'm just talking about this as someone who is coming back to it now and is used to a lot of the modern amenities that current gaming has afforded us, right? So going back to any game, even in like the early Xbox One and PS4 time frame era, sometimes struggle with how things are designed or how like we don't have a lot of quality of life things that are so normal to us now. But this really surprised me because it was pretty much amazing. Like I'm trying to think. The so I don't know if this gameplay here shows it, but at a certain point, you'll see me open up like a menu or something like that, and you'll see my cursor, and the cursor sensitivity I think is different from like your Windows settings. I hate when games do that. I hate when games have their own in-game cursor and it feels like delayed and it has a different sensitivity. I really hate that, which this game does. So that is a little annoying. I think this game would definitely benefit from like a PC definitive edition. You can get like I'm doing air quotes right now, definitive edition on PC, but it is just the base PC release with the DLC. So it's not like the console versions where it is a slightly enhanced port. I think this game would greatly benefit from that. It's not necessary by any means, and again, like I said, I am nitpicking, but uh, yeah, I guess that's like the only really thing I would complain about. But getting to the actual game, I said that I know last time. um, yeah, it still feels so good. I am sad I only started actually doing this in the second DLC. I forgot to mention I also played the DLCs, which are phenomenal. I think a lot of people will say that that is their favorite part of the whole series. I don't know. I think I still maybe it's because of nostalgia. I think I still love Dishonored 1 base game the most. But when I was playing, I don't remember what the DLC's name is called, but when I was playing, and there's no spoilers in this, when I was playing it, it wasn't until that DLC where I really committed to low chaos and save scumming, which is like, you know, saving before every interaction and making sure I do everything perfect. And if I fuck up, I'll just immediately restart the save. Which this game, I'm calling it save scumming, but which a lot of people use as like a pejorative or whatever to, shit on people who are, don't want to backtrack or whatever. But this game outright encourages it. I did it in Dishonored 2 after doing it in the second DLC, and I really do think it enhances the experience, and it allows me to really treat this game like a sandbox. Now, this is an immersive sim, which is a genre I am not familiar with, and I'm saying this as someone who has really not played any other immersive sims. I feel like it's a genre I wouldn't really like, and I think that Dishonored is probably an outlier with that. Um, but it really does make you feel like you have real freedom. There are so many times when I would use the blink ability, like I'll have it fully upgraded. It's almost, I think it's the ability that I always upgrade first. I think that's probably normal. I don't know. I haven't really checked what other people think, but I'll be, I always love going on the high roads. I don't know why. Um, and I will click on top of a building or blink on top of a building, and I'll assume just from playing other games, did I glitch it? Am I even supposed to be here? Did the devs think that I was going to be here? And I'll find a secret. I'll find, maybe not like an item or even a note, but I'll find like a dead body with like, in a room that sort of tells a small story. In the gameplay, you just saw like a couple that died together from the plague or whatever. And this is something that you're probably gonna see, so that's not really what I'm talking about. But you find stuff like that in areas where I think a lot of other games wouldn't have put that. And I think that it is things like that and, treating this game like a sandbox and, save scumming and stuff like that, I think really show the potential of this game. Or not even the potential, just how great this game is. Um, and as someone like me who has no experience with immersive sims, I would say that this is, I would assume, a great entry point into this genre and is definitely approachable for people who have never played stuff like this before. Because you can play the whole game. Like I mentioned, I only started doing low chaos, which is like the, another air quotes, canon um, timeline is getting like low chaos, which is not killing people, not setting off alarms, stuff like that. But if you don't want to do that, you can just go guns blazing. I think that removes a lot of the fun. But you can do that. You can literally play this game however you want. And this ties into what I was saying about, when I was exploring and going into places that I didn't think the developer would think that people would go. It feels like they've thought of everything. Like it really does feel like when I am exploring or when I am, like throwing a dead body at something or throwing a bottle at something or like teleporting all over the place and setting things like when I'm really trying to experiment, I was frequently shocked and happily surprised that it feels like that was the right way to do things. But I know that most people probably aren't going to do exactly what I did, which I think is what like this game strives at. I think most people are probably going to play this game on like high chaos or whatever. But even with the high chaos run, there are so many possibilities, and I think so few people are going to have an identical run. And this game is also a game that I think greatly benefits and encourages multiple playthroughs. Okay, you can see right there my cursor was just on screen. That's what I was talking about earlier. I hate that. Just have the normal Windows cursor. What are we doing? This is an old game though, so I'll give it a pass. I think another very obvious thing to talk about that's been praised to death is the graphical style. I think that this game has aged so well. I think maybe even better than Dishonored 2. Dishonored 2, I think actually, I was worried, but I think it did a fantastic job at translating the game's style into. I guess it's not really modern anymore. When did that game come out? Like 2014? No, 2016, something like that. But for the time, I think it did a great job. And even now, I think it still looks great at translating this sort of cartoony but like gritty art style. Side note, it actually reminded me a lot of Arcane, the Netflix like League of Legends show. I don't know if anyone else has ever said that. I've never heard anyone else say that, but my entire playthrough, it just really reminded me of it. And that's a major compliment because I think that show and this game are beautiful. Look at the dead bodies there; those look so fucking cool. The game is filled with stuff like that. But I think the art style has aged phenomenally. I think I'm gonna make a separate video talking about Dishonored 2 because I think that Dishonored 2 and Death the Outside deserve their own video. I've recorded this once before, but I realized I was just basically comparing the two games. But I think that does both of them a disservice because I think that as standalone games, they stand on their own, hold themselves. And I was worried going into Dishonored 2 because I had not looked up any reviews or anything like that. I mean, maybe I did. Like maybe I looked up like the Metacritic. I don't remember. But I went into it with zero expectations, and I was afraid because I've been in this situation before where I'll play a game, a somewhat old game. Dishonored is kind of retro now. I hate having to admit that, but it's from 2012, I think. Um, so it's kind of retro, right? 13 years old now this year. Wow, I don't like to think about that. Going back and playing these games and then playing the sequel, which is slightly newer, and sort of seeing them change up things or cut things, sort of making it streamlined to appeal to more people. And I can gladly say in Dishonored 2 they didn't do that, but maybe I'll do a separate video on that in and of itself. This game is phenomenal. I think even if you don't like immersive sims, even if you have never played this style of game before, I think it does a great job. I think I've noticed one thing. When I recommend this game to people, they usually play about an hour or two in and put the game down. It's not even that they've had a negative experience, but this is something that I've noticed with like three of my friends, and even with myself. Like I mentioned, I had never saw this game to the end. I didn't have a bad time, but I just never really got past the first couple levels. And I don't know if it is a skill gap, or I don't know what you call it, a skill curve or something like that. I think the issue is the first couple levels take place in the same area, like the Golden Cat area and stuff like that. And I think that that turns off a lot of players because I think that once you get past the first 2 hours, is I think where the game actually starts. The first, I think it's amazing from the bat, from the jump, but I think past that is really where it gets going. Once you start upgrading abilities, once you become more comfortable with the systems and the abilities, and I don't know. So I think that if you do check this game out, and maybe like you're having a decent time, but you're not really sure if you want to stick through it, I think you need to at least get past the Golden Cat mission, which isn't a spoiler. It's like very early on. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I think after that is really where this game opens up. I want to end this off by just saying, please play this game. This game is phenomenal. We'll probably never see a Dishonored 3, but I think that Dishonored, its DLCs, Dishonored 2, and Death the Outsider, tell a complete story. It could end at Death the Outsider, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. Deathloop, I know, is technically in the same universe. I've never played it. I do plan on playing it eventually. That I know that game has since release been viewed as very positive. I know at release it was kind of all over the place, but the series is great. I definitely recommend checking it out. Jesus Christ. Loud ass fucking truck. Yeah, I'm running out of gameplay. This is about to end in like a couple seconds. So check this game out, and yeah, see you guys.